They called my daughter a defect, and then told me I was the one with the problem for not finding it funny. My name is Clara Monroe. Just last week, my 7-year-old daughter Lily wore her hearing aids for the first time. She was petrified, but she was also beaming with pride. She couldn't wait to show her grandparents. She couldn't wait to show her aunt. I assumed a family dinner would be a safe space. I was devastatingly wrong. The moment we took our seats, my sister Sophie brandished her fork in my daughter's direction. A loud, grating laugh escaped her lips. She sneered, "Why does she look like a little cyborg?" The entire room fell silent. Lily's hand shot up to her ear, her cheeks flushing a deep crimson. I turned to my father, my eyes pleading with him to intervene. He didn't. He just took a slow sip of his wine, a smirk playing on his lips, and said, "Lighten up, Clara. It's just a bit of fun." That was the precise second that the world shifted on its axis. A horrifying truth settled in my bones. They weren't kidding around. They didn't see my daughter as a child with feelings. They saw her as a flaw in their perfect picture. And I realized with chilling certainty that I had been footing the bill for their cruelty for far too long. Before we get into it, please be sure to like this video, hit that subscribe button, and leave a comment letting me know what part of the world you're watching from. To truly grasp why that dinner felt like a physical blow, you need to understand the weeks that preceded it. You need to understand Lily. Lily is the sun in my solar system. She is 7 years old. She adores drawing rainbow-colored lions. And she possesses the kindest, most gentle spirit I have ever encountered. But for a significant part of her young life, things were difficult for her. More difficult than I ever knew. Throughout her first couple of years in school, Lily was always the quiet one. Her teachers would tell me she was a daydreamer, that she struggled to focus. There were times I'd call her name from another room and get no response. I have to admit, I would get so frustrated. I'd be in the kitchen dicing onions and call out, "Lily, time for dinner." When she wouldn't appear, I'd march into the living room to find her completely absorbed in her drawing, lost in a world of her own. "Why are you ignoring me?" I'd ask, my tone sharper than I intended. She'd look up, her expression startled. Her wide hazel eyes would cloud over with panic. "I didn't hear you, Mommy." I brushed it off as typical kid behavior. I figured she was just easily distracted. And then the day came that shattered my denial. We were at the local park. Lily was soaring on the swings. I was on a bench a short distance away. Another child came running up behind Lily and yelled, "Look out!" Lily didn't react. The other girl collided with her, and the metal chain of the swing struck Lily on the side of the head. It was a minor bump, nothing serious, but it sent a jolt of fear through me. I'd seen the whole thing unfold. I saw that Lily didn't even flinch until the moment of impact. She never heard the warning. In that instant, my stomach plummeted. I knew. A mother's intuition is a powerful force, even when we spend years trying to suppress it. I knew something was fundamentally wrong. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of doctor's appointments, sterile waiting rooms, and endless tests. I can still picture the audiology booth with perfect, painful clarity. It was a small, sound-insulated chamber. The silence inside felt oppressive, as if the very air had weight. I watched from the other side of a glass window as the audiologist placed a large set of headphones over Lily's ears. She looked so tiny in that oversized chair, her little legs swinging back and forth, not quite reaching the floor. She was instructed to raise her hand each time she heard a sound. I watched her hand intently. Beep. Her hand shot up. Beep. Up it went again. Then, a long pause. I could see the audiologist pressing the button on her console, sending a signal. Lily's hand remained limp in her lap. The audiologist tried again, increasing the volume. Lily just sat there, her gaze fixed on her sparkly shoes, her legs still swinging. She couldn't hear it. Tears burned the back of my eyes. I had the sudden, violent urge to pound on the glass. "Raise your hand, my sweet girl. Just raise your hand." But she couldn't. The official diagnosis was moderate bilateral sensorineural hearing loss. It's a very clinical way of saying that my daughter was missing out on a huge slice of the world. She wasn't deaf, but her experience was like living life with her head underwater. Voices were muffled and indistinct. High-frequency sounds like birdsong or the soft consonants in speech like S and F were completely absent from her reality. When the doctor laid it all out for me, I was crushed by a wave of guilt. I felt like I had let her down. Every single time I had gotten irritated with her for not listening, she literally hadn't been able to hear me. But Lily was a warrior. When we explained that she would need to wear hearing aids, she didn't shed a single tear. She simply asked, "Will they make me like a superhero?" "Yes," I managed to say, my voice thick with emotion. "Exactly like a superhero with super hearing." We chose her hearing aids together. They were tiny, modern, and incredibly advanced. Lily picked a sparkly purple mold for the part that went inside her ear. She was determined that everyone would see them. There was no shame in her, only excitement. She was thrilled at the prospect of finally being able to hear the whole conversation. But I was running on fumes. Navigating the labyrinth of the medical system is a full-time occupation. I spent hours on the phone, battling with insurance providers. I was driving her to speech therapy appointments 3 times a week to help her brain learn to process all the new sounds. I was devouring books about auditory processing disorders. And through all of this, I was also managing my company. My family had no idea about my company. They knew I had a job in the medical technology sector, but they pictured me as a simple project manager or maybe a sales representative. They didn't know I was the founder. They didn't know I was the CEO. They certainly had no clue that my company, Sonus Innovations, had recently pioneered a new signal processing algorithm that was revolutionizing the hearing aid industry. They didn't know I was wealthy, exceptionally wealthy. To my parents, Richard and Eleanor, and my sister Sophie, I was just Clara, the quiet one, the one who had married David, a high school history teacher. The one who lived in a normal suburban house because that's what we could afford, not because we preferred it. To them, I was the one who was always struggling just a little. In the Monroe household, the only currency that truly mattered was how things looked from the outside. Growing up, our home was less of a house and more of a showroom. You weren't supposed to touch anything. Everything had to be pristine. My mother, Eleanor, was fixated on maintaining a perfect image for the neighbors. My father, Richard, was obsessed with social status, and my sister, Sophie, was the star of the show. She was effervescent, beautiful, and married to a man in finance. They paraded around in flashy cars and draped themselves in designer labels. I was the odd one out because I was considered boring, too serious. When I called my mother to tell her about Lily's diagnosis, her first reaction wasn't one of sympathy. It was one of aesthetic concern. "Oh, the poor dear," my mother said. "Will she have to wear those big, clunky beige things on her ears? That will just ruin her school photos." I clutched the phone so tightly my knuckles turned white. "Mom, she needs them to hear. It doesn't matter what they look like." "Well, I'm just saying," she sniffed. "Perhaps you can get her a hairstyle that covers them. Girls are sensitive about these things." Lily is 7, I said, my voice turning icy. She's sensitive about being able to hear her teacher. I should have recognized it then. I should have called off the family dinner David wanted to cancel. They aren't good for you, Clara, he'd said the night before. We were in our kitchen. He was at the sink washing dishes while I sat at the table, staring blankly at my laptop. Every time we go over there, you come home feeling defeated. And now, with Lily, I just don't trust them. They're family, I replied. It was the pre-programmed response I'd been conditioned to give my entire life. They haven't seen Lily in over a month. They need to understand what's happening. Dad said he wants to grill steaks. Your dad wants a captive audience, David grumbled under his breath. Please, I begged, for my sake. I want Lily to feel normal. If we start hiding her, it sends the message that we're ashamed. I want to show them her new hearing aids and make it a non-issue. If they see us treating it as a positive thing, they'll follow our lead. I was so incredibly naive. I desperately wanted my parents to be the grandparents Lily deserved. I wanted Sophie to be a caring aunt. I kept trying to force a square peg into a round hole. I believed that if I could just explain it clearly enough, if I could just frame Lily's condition in the right way, they would finally rise to the occasion. I was shielding them from the reality of who I was, a powerful and successful CEO, because I wanted them to love me for me. And now, I was trying to shield Lily by forcing a family connection that simply didn't exist. I remember getting Lily ready that afternoon. She put on her favorite yellow dress. We carefully inserted the hearing aids. She winced slightly at the new sensation of the mold in her ear, but then I switched them on. Her eyes grew wide. I can hear the refrigerator buzzing, she whispered in awe. I know, I smiled, planting a kiss on her forehead. You look so beautiful. Do I look like a cyborg? She asked. It was an innocent question. She had recently watched a movie with a friendly robot. No, I said, my voice firm. You look like Lily. You look like my amazing girl. We got into the car. David drove. I sat in the passenger seat, my heart beating a frantic, anxious rhythm against my ribs. I glanced at my phone. 3 unread emails from my CFO regarding a potential acquisition. I ignored them. Tonight, I wasn't the boss. I was the daughter. I looked in the rearview mirror. Lily was gazing out the window, a small smile on her face as she listened to the sound of the tires on the road. Ready to go see Grandma and Grandpa? I asked. Yes, she cheered. I took a deep, shaky breath. It's going to be okay, I told myself. It's just one dinner. But deep in the pit of my stomach, I felt that familiar dread creeping in. The dread of stepping into that house where I was never, ever quite good enough. I just prayed that this time their judgment wouldn't find its way to my daughter. My parents live in a private gated community, the kind where the lawns look like they're trimmed with surgical scissors and the houses are all oversized, columned mansions. As we pulled into their sweeping circular driveway, I saw Sophie's white Mercedes SUV was already parked. Fantastic, David muttered. Sophie's here. The performance has already begun. I reached across the console and squeezed his hand. Be nice, please. I'm always nice, David said, until someone gives me a reason not to be. We walked up the stone pathway. Before I could even press the doorbell, the heavy oak door swung open. My mother stood there, a vision of flawless perfection. Her blonde hair was coiffed into a rigid, unmoving style, and she wore a silk blouse that likely cost more than my first car. You're late, she announced, forgoing a hello. We're perfectly on time, Mom, I said, glancing at my watch. It's 6 o'clock on the dot. Well, Sophie has been here for 20 minutes. Get in, get in. Don't let the flies in. We stepped into the grand foyer. It smelled of citrus-scented polish and overpriced scented candles. The air was frigid. My father insisted on keeping the air conditioning at Arctic levels, regardless of the season. Lily darted forward to give my mom a hug. "Hi, Grandma." My mother's body went rigid. She gave Lily a stiff pat on the shoulder, but made no move to hug her back. "Hello, Lily. Be careful with my blouse. Your hands look a bit sticky." Lily pulled away, a look of confusion on her face. "I washed them." "Good girl," my mother said dismissively. She then turned her attention to me. "Your father is on the patio with Leo and Sophie. Go on out and say hello." We made our way through the house. The formal dining room table was already impeccably set with crystal stemware, polished silver, and starched linen napkins. It looked less like a place for a family meal and more like a magazine photo shoot. Out on the sprawling flagstone patio, my father was nursing a glass of scotch. My brother Leo was scrolling through his phone, looking utterly bored. Sophie was draped dramatically over a chaise lounge, swirling a glass of white wine. "Well, look what the cat dragged in," Sophie called out. "The latecomers have arrived." "Hi, Sophie," I said, my voice carefully neutral. "Hi, Dad." "Hi, Leo." My father glanced up at me, then at David. He gave David a curt nod, a barely there acknowledgement, before his eyes settled on Lily. "So," my father said, his voice laced with something I couldn't quite place. "This is the big debut." I felt a familiar knot of anxiety tighten in my stomach. "If you're talking about her hearing aids, yes. She got them this week." I gave Lily a gentle nudge forward. "Show Grandpa, sweetheart." Lily smiled, a little nervously. She carefully tucked her hair behind her ears, revealing the sparkly purple molds and the small, sleek devices nestled behind them. "See?" she said with a touch of pride. "I can hear everything now." My father leaned in for a closer look. He squinted. He didn't smile. He didn't say, "That's wonderful, honey." He said, "It looks like a strange bug is crawling into your ear." For a split second, my heart stopped beating. Sophie let out a loud, sharp burst of laughter. "Oh my God, Dad, you're awful." She looked over at Lily. "It's huge, Clara. Did you get the cheapest model? It looks like one of those things old men wear in retirement homes." "It's a pediatric model," I said, my voice trembling slightly. "It's designed for durability." And she chose the color herself. "Purple!" Sophie sneered with a playful roll of her eyes. "So subtle. Why does she look like a little cyborg?" All the air seemed to get sucked off the patio. Lily's hand flew to her ear, covering the purple mold. Her proud smile crumbled. "It's not a cyborg," Lily whispered. "I'm just teasing, kid," Sophie said, taking another sip of her wine. "Don't be so sensitive. It runs in the family, I swear." David stepped forward, his expression hardening. "Sophie, that's enough. She's 7 years old." "Oh, for heaven's sake, Mark," my father grumbled. "It's a joke. Everyone is so ridiculously sensitive these days. Come on, dinner's ready. The steaks are going to get cold." We moved into the dining room. I wanted to turn and run. I wanted to scoop Lily into my arms and flee. But I was paralyzed by that lifelong conditioning. The deep-seated need to not cause a scene, the compulsion to be the good daughter. I told myself, maybe if we just get through dinner, it will all be over. We sat down. The atmosphere was thick with unspoken tension. The only sounds were the soft clinks of silverware against expensive china. Because Lily's hearing aids were new, her brain was still learning to filter sounds. To her, every noise was amplified. The scrape of a knife against a plate was a piercing screech. The clinking of wine glasses was like a chorus of bells. About 5 minutes into the meal, my brother Leo accidentally dropped his fork. It hit his plate with a loud, jarring clang. Lily flinched violently. She winced and clamped her hands over her ears. "Ow!" she cried out. "That was so loud." My mother let out an exaggerated sigh. She placed her fork down deliberately. "Does she have to make such noises?" I stared at my mother, completely baffled. "She didn't make a noise, Mom. The fork was loud. Her hearing is very sensitive right now." "Well, it's disruptive," my mother stated flatly. "Can't you just turn the volume down?" "We're trying to have a civilized dinner." "It's not a television, Mom," I said, my voice starting to rise. "It's a medical device." "It seems like an awful lot of drama for a minor hearing issue," Sophie chimed in. She was meticulously cutting her steak, not even bothering to look up. "I mean, honestly, Clara, did you have to get the ones that make her look so damaged? They have invisible ones now." "I saw a commercial. Those are for adults," I explained, fighting to keep my voice steady for Lily's sake. Lily was watching us, her eyes wide and starting to glisten with tears. "Lily needs these because her ears are still growing." "Whatever," Sophie said with a wave of her hand. "I just think you enjoy the attention. You always did love playing the victim. Now you have a victim child to go with it." David slammed his palm down on the table. The crystal glasses trembled. "That is enough," David said. His voice was quiet, but it was charged with a dangerous energy. "You will not talk about my daughter that way." My father looked up from his steak. He looked irritated. Not at Sophie, at David. "David, sit down," my father commanded. "You are making a scene in my home." "Your daughter is mocking a disabled child," David shot back, pointing his knife at Sophie. "She's teasing," my dad said dismissively. "It's what families do. You need to toughen that girl up. If she's going to burst into tears every time someone makes a joke, she's going to be eaten for breakfast in the real world. You're coddling her." He looked directly at Lily, who was now crying silently, tears streaming down her face and onto her yellow dress. "Stop that crying, Lily," my father said sternly. "It was just a joke. Don't be such a baby." That was it. That was the moment. It wasn't a slow, dawning realization. It was a clean break, like a rubber band snapping. I looked at my father. I looked at the man whose Mercedes lease I paid for every single month. The man whose hefty country club dues were quietly deducted from my secret account every quarter. I looked at my mother, whose expensive cosmetic dermatology appointments I covered without her knowledge. I looked at Sophie. I had been paying her children's private school tuition for the last 3 years. I had told her it was a special scholarship from a foundation I had a connection with. She never once questioned it. She just cashed the checks. They sat there, enjoying their steak and wine, completely at ease with the fact that they were tearing my little girl to shreds. They didn't see Lily. They saw an imperfection. They saw something that embarrassed them, and they saw me as weak. They thought I was poor, struggling Clara, desperate for their approval. They had no idea that I was the one holding the puppet strings to their entire lifestyle. Lily looked at me. "Mommy," she choked out between sobs, "am I a cyborg?" My heart shattered into a million tiny pieces. "No, my love," I said. I looked at David. He was already on his feet waiting for me. He was ready to go to war, but he was waiting for my signal. My father took another bite of his steak. "Honestly, Clara, you should probably look into some special accommodations for her. A special school or something. She clearly can't handle a normal dinner environment." "Accommodations," I repeated. The word felt like poison in my mouth. "Yes," he said, "somewhere with the slower kids." I stood up. My chair scraped loudly against the hardwood floor. I didn't care. "We're leaving," I announced. "Oh, for heaven's sake, sit down, Clara," my mother said, rolling her eyes. "Don't be so dramatic. We haven't even had dessert yet." I said we are leaving. My voice was suddenly firm. It surprised even me how steady it was. I wasn't yelling. I felt a profound coldness wash over me. "Come on, Lily." I reached down and took her small hand. David was already heading for the door. "If you walk out that door," my father warned, pointing his fork at me, "don't bother coming back for Christmas. I'm sick and tired of all this sensitivity. You're destroying the family dynamic." I looked at him. I really looked at him. I saw the arrogance, the deep-seated cruelty. "You know what? You're right," I said. "I am destroying the dynamic, and I'm done with it." "Go on then," Sophie laughed. "Run away. Maybe the cyborg needs a software update." She cackled again. I didn't say another word. I didn't scream or curse them out. I simply turned my back on them. We walked out of that dining room, through the citrus-scented foyer, and out the front door. The silence in the car on the way home was heavy, but it wasn't the silence of fear anymore. It was the silence of a chapter ending. I held Lily's hand in the back seat. She was still sniffling. "Mommy," she whispered, "why do they hate my ears?" "They don't hate your ears, baby," I lied. "They're just wrong. They are wrong about everything." I stared out the window at the blurry streetlights. My father thought I was being sensitive. He thought he held all the power because he was the patriarch, the man at the head of the table. He had no idea the only reason he even had that table was because I had paid for it. He had no idea that his jokes had just cost him everything. I wasn't just heartbroken. I was finished. And as we drove off into the night, my sadness began to morph into something else, something harder, something much more useful: clarity. I had a spreadsheet to open, and I had some phone calls to make. The drive home was only 30 minutes, but it felt like a lifetime. David drove in tense silence, his knuckles bone white as he gripped the steering wheel. He was staring at the road ahead, his jaw clenched. I knew that look. David is an endlessly patient man. As a teacher, he handles a classroom of 30 teenagers every day without ever losing his cool. But tonight, he was practically humming with a contained rage. In the back seat, Lily was unnervingly quiet. On a normal drive home from her grandparents, she'd either be asleep or begging to listen to her favorite movie soundtrack. Tonight, she just stared out the window. Each time a streetlight passed, it illuminated her small, pale face. She looked older than her 7 years. She looked weary. I reached my hand back. "Lily, you okay, sweetheart?" She didn't respond for a moment. Then, so quietly I almost missed it, she said, "I took them out." "You took what out, baby?" "The ears. I put them in my pocket." A vice gripped my chest. "Why did you do that?" "So I don't look like a cyborg anymore," she whispered. I pulled my hand back as if I'd been burned. I looked at David. He'd heard it too. A single tear traced a path down his cheek, catching the light from the dashboard. He wiped it away with an angry swipe of his hand. When we pulled into our own driveway, our house looked different. Usually it was just our home, a pleasant 2-story house in a quiet neighborhood. But tonight, it felt like a sanctuary, a fortress. I helped her change into her pajamas, which were covered in little stars and moons. She sat on the edge of her bed, her legs swinging, just as they had in the audiologist's office. "Mommy," she asked. I was hanging up the yellow dress she'd been so proud to wear. "Yes, baby? Did Grandpa really mean it?" I turned around. "Mean what? That I should go to a special school? With the slow kids?" I knelt down in front of her and took her small hands in mine. They were cold. "No," I said, my voice fierce. "Grandpa was wrong. Grandpa was being cruel. You are so smart. You are brilliant. And you are staying right where you are." She looked down at their intertwined fingers. "Sophie said the hearing aids are broken because I'm so quiet," she said, her voice trembling. She said I'm broken. Then she looked up at me, and her wide hazel eyes were filled with a kind of fear that no 7-year-old should ever have to experience. Mom, am I broken? The air was stolen from the room. Time seemed to stop. I looked at my perfect, beautiful child. I thought of the hours she spent practicing her speech sounds, the bravery she showed walking into her second-grade class with those sparkly purple devices in her ears. I thought about how she always hugged her friends when they were sad. She wasn't broken. She was whole. She was everything. The only broken things were the people we had just left behind. I pulled her into a tight embrace, burying my face in her hair. It smelled of strawberry shampoo and innocence. "Listen to me, Lily," I said, making sure my voice was absolutely steady. "You are not broken. You are perfect. Sophie is mean. Grandpa is rude. But you are my superhero. Do you understand me?" She nodded against my shoulder. "I hear you. And I'm making you a promise," I whispered into her hair. "I promise you that no one, and I mean no one, who makes you feel this small will ever be near you again. You are done with them. We are done with them." I held her until her breathing evened out, until the trembling stopped. David appeared in the doorway a few minutes later, watching us with an exhausted expression. He came over and kissed Lily on the forehead. "Read me a story?" Lily asked, her voice thick with sleep. David grabbed her favorite book from the nightstand. He settled into the rocking chair and began to read, his voice a deep, calming rumble. I watched them, my husband, who adored my daughter more than life itself, reading to her to make the world feel safe again. And I felt a profound shift inside me. For years I had been the family diplomat. I was the one who smoothed over every conflict. When my mother criticized my clothes, I bought new ones. When my father belittled David's teaching career, I'd laugh nervously and change the topic. When Sophie borrowed money and conveniently forgot to pay it back, I let it slide. I did it all because I wanted a family. I wanted Lily to have grandparents and an aunt and cousins. I thought that if I was just nice enough, generous enough, and quiet enough, they would eventually love us the way we deserved to be loved. But tonight, looking at Lily's tear-swollen eyes, I finally saw the truth. They didn't love us. They tolerated us. And they only tolerated us because I made it financially convenient for them. I stood up and kissed Lily one last time. "Sleep tight, my love," I said. I walked out of the room, closing the door softly behind me. I stood in the hallway for a moment, just listening. David came out a moment later. "She's asleep," he said quietly. He looked at me, his eyes dark. "Clara, we are never going back there. I don't care who they are. I don't care if they're your blood. I will not put her through that again." "I know," I said. "I mean it," David said, stepping closer. "I'm done. I don't want their hollow Christmas gifts or their fake apologies. They hurt her. They enjoyed hurting her." "I know," I repeated. "So, what are we going to do?" he asked. "Because you know your dad. He's going to call tomorrow morning and act like absolutely nothing happened. He's going to tell you we're overreacting." I looked at my husband and straightened my spine. I felt a cold, hard clarity settle deep in my chest. The rage was gone, replaced by something far more effective. Calculation. "He won't be calling tomorrow," I said. "Or if he does, it won't be to tell us we're overreacting." David looked puzzled. "What does that mean?" "It means," I said, walking towards the staircase, "that I have some work to do." "Work?" David asked. "It's 9 o'clock at night." "Yes," I said. "I need to update a few spreadsheets." I walked downstairs, not to the living room, but to my home office. I walked in and shut the door. I sat down at my desk, opened my laptop, and was bathed in the cool blue glow of the screen. I wasn't just Clara the daughter anymore. I wasn't Clara the victim. I was Clara Monroe, CEO. And I was about to fire my entire family. To comprehend what happened next, you have to understand the secret I had guarded for 6 years. My family believed I was a mid-level project manager at a medical supply company. They assumed I made around $80,000 a year. They thought David's teacher's salary was what kept us afloat. They thought we lived in our perfectly nice 4-bedroom house because it was the best we could do. They were profoundly mistaken. 6 years ago, while I was pregnant with Lily, I founded a company called Sonus Innovations. I had an idea for a new type of signal processing algorithm that could help hearing aids interpret sound more naturally for people with hearing loss. It was an ironic twist of fate, given Lily's eventual diagnosis, but at the time it was purely an engineering challenge for me. I worked through the nights. I worked on weekends. I built the initial prototype in our garage while David graded history essays. We launched the company quietly. The technology was a success. It worked far better than anything else available. Within 2 years, we were acquired by a major medical conglomerate, but I remained as CEO. Then we went public. On the day Sonus Innovations rang the opening bell at the stock exchange, my personal net worth soared to $40 million. Today, with stock options and company growth, my assets are closer to $95 million. I never told my parents. Why? Because I know them. I know my father uses money as a yardstick to measure respect. If he knew I was rich, far richer than he had ever dreamed of being, he wouldn't love me more. He would simply try to control me. He'd lecture me on investments. He'd take all the credit for my success. And my mother? She'd see me as a walking ATM. She'd expect the finest clothes, the most lavish vacations, the ultimate status symbols. And Sophie would despise me. She had to be the successful one with her finance bro husband. If she knew her quiet, boring little sister was a multi-millionaire, her jealousy would be suffocating. So I hid it. I kept my old car. I kept our normal house. I shopped at Target, but I couldn't bear to watch them struggle. Even though they were critical and unkind, they were still my family. So I created a system. I sat at my desk and opened a file named Family Expenses 2024, XLSX. The spreadsheet was a sprawling ledger of my secret generosity. I scrolled through the line items. It was a list of every single thing I paid for. I never gave them cash. That would have raised suspicion. Instead, I operated through a complex web of anonymous trusts, fabricated administrative errors, and family discounts that I invented. I looked at the list. It was nauseating. Row 4, Sophie's children's private school tuition, $90,000 a year, paid directly to the school through a philanthropic donor fund. Sophie bragged to everyone that her kids had earned a prestigious legacy scholarship. They didn't earn it. I bought it. Row 8, Richard and Eleanor's Oakmont Country Club membership. $25,000 in annual dues plus a $1,500 monthly spending minimum. My father adored that club. It was the cornerstone of his identity. He told all his friends he was a founding member and had his fees waived. They weren't waived. The club manager sent the bill to a P.O. box I maintained every month. Row 12, Leo's small business loan, $150,000. My brother Leo had started a craft coffee shop 3 years ago. It was hemorrhaging money. He couldn't make payroll. I had my attorney create a shell LLC to invest in his business to save him from bankruptcy. He thought he had a secret angel investor. The angel was me. Row 15, Mom's specialist medical bills. My mother saw a dermatologist and a holistic nutritionist who didn't accept insurance. They charged $500 an hour. I arranged a direct billing agreement with their offices. Mom believed they gave her a special senior discount. 20. Dad's Mercedes. My father drove a brand new Mercedes E-Class. It was a lease. He was convinced he got an incredible promotional deal because of his high credit score. He didn't. I had made the $10,000 down payment and was subsidizing 70% of the monthly payments. I stared at the grand total. Total monthly expenditure, approximately $25,000. Total yearly expenditure, over $300,000. I had been spending $250,000 a year propping up the lives of the very people who had just called my daughter a broken cyborg. I stared at the screen, the blue light reflecting off my glasses. I thought about the dinner. I thought about my father saying, "It's just a joke." I thought about Sophie saying, "Maybe that's why she's so quiet. The thing doesn't work." They were so comfortable, so secure. They felt so superior to me, sitting on their high horses and looking down on my broken family, all while I was paying for the damn horses. A cold fury settled over me. It wasn't hot and explosive. It was glacial. They mocked my child while living off the profits of the very technology that allowed her to hear. Every dollar I had ever earned came from the medical field they had just ridiculed. "Okay," I whispered to the empty room. "Let's see how funny the joke is now." I picked up my phone. It was late, but my personal banker, Marcus, always answered my calls. I dialed his number. He picked up on the second ring. "Clara," he said, his voice instantly alert. "Is everything all right? It's late." "I'm fine, Marcus," I said, my own voice eerily calm. "I need you to execute a series of stop payment orders. Immediately." "Okay," Marcus said, his tone shifting into business mode. "Which accounts?" "The family trust account," I said. "All of it. Everything." Marcus paused. "Clara, that account covers the school tuition, the car leases, the medical retainers, and the quarterly stipends." "I know what it covers," I said. "Cancel it. All of it. Tonight." "The school tuition payment is scheduled for tomorrow morning," Marcus warned. "If that payment bounces, they may unenroll the children. Cancel it. The car lease. Cancel it." "Clara," Marcus said gently, "this is going to create a significant disruption. Are you absolutely sure?" I glanced at the photo on my desk. It was a picture of Lily from the previous week, clutching her new hearing aid case, her face a mixture of a brave and nervous smile. "They made fun of Lily," I said, my voice low and hard. "They made her cry, Marcus. And then they told me it was a joke." There was a beat of silence on the other end of the line. Marcus has known me for 5 years. He knows how much I adore my daughter. "Understood," Marcus said. His voice was firm now, too. "I'll kill the transfers immediately. By 9 a.m. tomorrow, the checks will bounce, the autopays will fail, and the accounts will be frozen." "Good," I said. "And Marcus?" "Yes?" "Prepare the documentation," I said. "When they call, and they will call, I don't want to argue. I want to show them the receipts. I want them to see every last penny I spent on them." "I'll have the PDF ready for you in an hour," Marcus said. "Thank you." I hung up the phone. I sat there in the dark for a long time, watching the cursor blink on the spreadsheet. I highlighted the rows. Sophie, tuition. Dad, club. Mom, doctors. Dad, car. I pressed the delete key. The cells turned blank. The numbers vanished. The room felt lighter. I wasn't their bank anymore. I wasn't their emotional punching bag. I closed the laptop. I walked back upstairs and into my bedroom. David was lying awake, staring at the ceiling. "What did you do?" he asked. I climbed into bed and pulled the covers up to my chin. I felt an incredible sense of peace. For the first time all day, I was completely calm. "I balanced the books," I said. David turned to look at me. What does that mean? It means, I said, closing my eyes, that tomorrow is going to be a very, very bad day for them and a very quiet day for us. I fell asleep almost instantly, but I was awake early the next morning. I wanted to be ready when the chaos began, and I knew it would, because money is silent when you have it, but when it vanishes, it screams. The next morning, the screaming started at 8:15 a.m. The morning after I cut my family off, the sun rose just as it always did. I was up at 6:30 a.m. I felt different. Normally, I woke with a baseline of anxiety, wondering what new crisis my mother would invent or what passive-aggressive jab Sophie had posted online. Today, I felt unburdened. I felt clean. I went downstairs and made coffee. David came down a few minutes later, looking at me cautiously. "Did you sleep?" he asked. "Like a rock," I said, pouring him a mug. "How's Lily?" "She's okay," David said, leaning on the counter. "She asked if she had to wear her ears today. I told her only if she wanted to. She put them in." "Good," I said. "She's so brave." We sat at the kitchen table. Lily came down in her pajamas, hearing aids in place. She climbed into her chair and started on her cereal. "Mommy," she said, milk dribbling from her spoon, "are we going to see Grandma today?" I looked at her. "No, sweetie, not today." "Okay," she said, and I saw not sadness, but a flicker of relief in her eyes. Then, at 8:15 a.m. precisely, my phone buzzed on the table. It was Sophie. I didn't answer. I just watched it light up. BZZT, BZZT, BZZT. It stopped. A minute later, a text appeared. "Sophie, call me. Now. There's a weird issue with the school tuition portal." I took a slow sip of my coffee. I didn't reply. 5 minutes later, the phone rang again. This time, it was my father. "Dad, pick up the phone, Clara. It's an emergency." I let it go to voicemail. David was watching me. "Is it starting?" he asked. "Oh yeah," I said with a thin smile. "It's starting." By 9 a.m., I had 18 missed calls. The first voicemail was from Sophie, her voice high and frantic. "Clara, are you there? Listen, I'm at the bursar's office at the kids' school. They're saying the tuition payment was returned. It says insufficient funds or payer revoked. It must be a glitch with that scholarship thing you set up. I need you to fix it right now. They won't let Timmy into his classroom until it clears. It's so humiliating." The second voicemail was from my father, his tone pure anger. "Clara, I'm at the club. I tried to buy breakfast, and they told me my membership is suspended. Suspended! They said the auto draft failed." The third was from my mother, sounding utterly bewildered. "Clara, the dermatologist's office just called. They said my appointment is canceled because the billing agreement was terminated. I don't understand. Did you forget to pay the bill? You know I need this chemical peel." I played them on speakerphone. David just shook his head. "They really have no clue, do they?" he said. "They think it's all just a mistake. They think money just materializes out of thin air," I said. "They think I'm just the secretary who pushes the papers. They don't realize I own the bank." I stood up. "David, can you take Lily to the park or the library? I need her out of the house." "Why?" "Because they aren't just going to keep calling," I said. "They're going to show up here, and I don't want Lily anywhere near this." David nodded. "Got it." He took Lily out for ice cream and a movie. I was alone in the house. I waited. I didn't have to wait long. At 10:30 a.m., I heard the sound of tires screeching in the driveway. I peered out the window. My father's Mercedes and Sophie's SUV had pulled in aggressively. Their car doors slammed in unison. They stormed up the walkway. I opened the front door before they could start pounding on it. They stood there, a united front of pure outrage. My father's face was beet red. Sophie looked wild-eyed and frantic. My mother looked as if she'd just smelled something foul. "What the hell is going on?" my father bellowed. "No hello. No, how are you?" Just raw fury. "Hello, Dad," I said calmly. "Come in." "Don't you hello me," he spat, pushing past me into the foyer. Do you have any idea how humiliated I was? The waiter declined my card in front of Bob Miller. In front of Bob Miller, Clara. "And the school!" Sophie shrieked. "I had to write a personal check to get Timmy into his class. Do you know how much that was? I don't have that kind of cash just sitting in my checking account. I'm going to bounce my mortgage payment because of you." My mother glided in last, clutching her purse. "Clara, you really must be more organized. If you're having some sort of financial trouble, you can just tell us. But don't let our accounts lapse like this. It's terribly irresponsible." I closed the front door. I locked it. I turned to face them. They were standing in my hallway, filling the space with their noise, their entitlement. They always seemed so large, so imposing. But today, for the first time, I noticed something else. Panic. They were terrified. Without the financial cushion I provided, their perfect worlds were already crumbling. "It wasn't a mistake," I said. The room fell silent. "What?" Sophie asked. "It wasn't a glitch," I said, and I didn't forget. "I don't understand," my mother said. "Why would the payments stop?" "Because I stopped them," I said. My father's eyes narrowed. "You stopped them? Why? Because of last night? You're throwing a tantrum?" "A tantrum?" I laughed. It was a dry, humorless sound. "No, Dad, because I'm done." "You can't just cut off the funding," Sophie yelled. "That scholarship is for the children. You can't punish my kids because you're mad at me." "There is no scholarship, Sophie," I said. She froze. "What?" "There is no legacy education fund," I said. "There is no anonymous benefactor for the country club. There is no special medical subsidy program for Mom." I walked into the living room. "Come in here. Sit down." They followed me, their faces a mask of confusion. They didn't sit. They just stood awkwardly around the coffee table. I picked up a file folder I had placed there earlier. I tossed it onto the table. It landed with a heavy thud. "What is this?" my father asked. "That," I said, "is the truth." My father reached down and opened the folder. Inside were the spreadsheets, the bank transfer records, the emails from my lawyer establishing the anonymous trusts. He picked up a page. His eyes scanned it. The color drained from his face. "What? What is this?" he stammered. "Look at the source of funds," I said. "Look at the account name." He looked. Payer, C. Monroe/Sonus Holdings. "Sonus?" Sophie asked. "That's that medical company, the one you work for." "The one I founded," I corrected her. They just stared at me. "The one I own," I added. The silence in that room was absolute. It was heavier than the silence at dinner the night before. This was the silence of a world shattering. You own it?" my mother whispered. "Yes," I said. "I founded Sonus Innovations 6 years ago. We developed the signal processing algorithm that is now the industry standard. The company went public 4 years ago." "But—" Sophie looked at me, her eyes scanning my simple jeans and t-shirt. "But you drive a Honda. You live here." "I live here because I like it," I said. "I drive a Honda because it's reliable, and I kept it a secret because I knew exactly what would happen if I told you." I pointed to the papers in my father's hand. "I've been paying for it all. Paying for everything," I said, my voice unwavering, the adrenaline coursing through my veins. "Sophie, that scholarship? That was me writing a check every semester. Dad, the country club? I paid the dues. Mom, the doctors. Me, the car. Me, Leo's business loan. Me. I spent over $300,000 last year alone," I said, "just to maintain your appearances." My father dropped the paper as if it had burned him. He looked like he'd been punched, but then shock gave way to defensiveness. "Well," he blustered, "why didn't you tell us? You let us believe it was all luck." "I didn't let you believe anything," I said. "You never asked." I stepped towards them. "Think about it," I said. "For 6 years, money magically appeared whenever you needed it. Problems just evaporated. Did you ever once ask, 'Clara, how did you manage that?' Did you ever ask, 'Clara, are you okay?' No, you just took." "We're family," my mother cried. "Of course we share resources. That's what families do." "No," I said sharply. "Families support each other. Families love each other. You don't love me. You love the lifestyle I provided for you." "That is not true," Sophie shouted, angry tears welling in her eyes. "How can you say that? We love you." "You mocked my daughter," I said, and the temperature in the room plummeted. "Last night at that dinner table, you laughed at her. You called her a cyborg. You called her broken." "It was a joke," my father roared. "God damn it, Clara. Are you really going to destroy this family over a joke?" "Yes," I screamed. It was the first time I had ever raised my voice to them. It ricocheted off the walls. They all flinched. "Yes," I said, lowering my voice to a dangerous whisper. "I am going to destroy this fake family you've built because it is not a joke to me. She is my child. She is the most important thing in my world." And you looked at her with disgust. I pointed at an old spare hearing aid I had left on the table. "You made fun of the very device that helps her hear," I said. "And do you know where the money for your country club came from? Do you know where the money for your private school came from?" I paused, letting the weight of my next words sink in. "It came from hearing aids," I said. "It came from the exact technology you ridiculed. I built my fortune helping people just like Lily, and you used that money to humiliate her." My mother put a hand to her mouth. "Oh my God." "The irony is disgusting, isn't it?" I said. "You bit the hand that was feeding you, and now the hand is closed." "Clara, please," my father said, his tone shifting abruptly. The yelling was gone. He was bargaining now. "Let's be reasonable. You can't just leave us high and dry. I can't pay that lease. Sophie can't pull the kids from school in the middle of the semester. It will ruin them." "You should have thought of that before you called my daughter a defect," I said. "We didn't mean it," Sophie cried. I was just being me. I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry." "Is that what you want to hear?" "I don't want your apology," I said, "because it isn't real. You're only sorry because the money stopped." I walked to the front door and opened it wide. "Get out," I said. "Clara," my mother started. "Get out." My father looked at me. For the first time in my entire life, I saw something resembling respect in his eyes. It was born of fear, but it was respect nonetheless. He realized he had no more cards to play. He was a king with no kingdom, and I was the one who had been holding up the castle walls all along. "You're making a huge mistake," he said quietly. "You're going to be all alone." "I have David," I said, "and I have Lily. That's all the family I need." He just shook his head and walked out the door. My mother followed, sobbing into a handkerchief. Sophie paused in the doorway. She looked at me with pure venom. "You think you're so much better than us, don't you?" she hissed. "No," I said. "I just think I'm finished with you." I slammed the door in her face. I locked it. I threw the deadbolt. I leaned my forehead against the cool wood, my heart pounding, my hands shaking. But I didn't cry. I walked back into the living room. The file folder was still on the table, its secrets spilled out. I gathered the papers, the evidence of my 6 years of silent, guilt-ridden funding. I walked to the kitchen, struck a match, and lit the corner of the spreadsheet. I dropped it into the sink and watched it burn. The paper curled, turning to black ash. Sophie's tuition, gone. Dad's club, gone. Mom's cosmetic procedures, gone. It was over, but I knew the hard part wasn't finished. People like my family don't go away quietly. They fight, they gossip, they claw their way back. But they didn't know I had already prepared for the next phase. I went to my laptop. I had an email draft saved, addressed to the board of directors at the Oakmont Country Club. Another was addressed to the headmaster of the private academy. Subject: discontinuation of sponsorship. I clicked send. Then I sat down and waited for David and Lily to come home. The house was quiet, but for the first time it didn't feel empty. It felt like my own. The silence didn't last long. In psychology, there's a concept called an extinction burst. It's what happens when you abruptly stop reinforcing a learned behavior. The subject doesn't just quit, they escalate. They have a meltdown. They try every trick in the book to get the reward back. My family was in the midst of a full-blown extinction burst. For the next 2 weeks, my life was a siege. They tried every tactic imaginable. First came the emergency phase. My mother called me 3 days after the confrontation, sobbing so hard I could barely make out her words. "Clara, you have to help. The leasing company, they came for the Mercedes. They took it right out of the driveway. The neighbors saw. Mrs. Gable was walking her poodle, and she saw the tow truck. I'm sorry, Mom," I said calmly. "But that's what happens when you don't make the payments on a car." "But it's so embarrassing," she wailed. "We have a reputation." "Then maybe Dad should buy a car he can actually afford," I suggested. "A Toyota is very reliable." She hung up on me. Next came the guilt phase. Sophie sent me pictures of her children crying, with captions like, "Timmy is heartbroken. He can't go on the private school field trip. He misses his friends. I hope you're happy hurting innocent children." I didn't reply. I knew the truth. Timmy wasn't crying about a field trip. He was crying because his mother was a stressed-out mess and taking it out on him. I did send an anonymous email to the school counselor, just to ensure the kids were being looked after, but I did not pay the tuition. Then they deployed the flying monkeys. This is when they enlist other family members to do their bidding. My Aunt Carol, my dad's sister, called me. We hadn't spoken in a year. "Clara," she said, her voice stern, "your father tells me you've stolen his retirement money." I actually laughed. "Stolen? Carol, I was giving him money. I just stopped." "Well, he says he's destitute. He says you tricked him somehow. You need to apologize and fix this. It's unchristian to treat your parents this way." "Carol," I said, my voice flat. They mocked Lily's disability. They called her a cyborg. They told me to put her in a home for slow kids. There was a long pause on the other end. "Oh," Carol said finally, he didn't mention that part." "No," I said, "he wouldn't." I blocked Aunt Carol's number. It was difficult. I won't pretend it wasn't. It's hard to watch the people who raised you flounder. It's hard to know my dad was probably sitting in a half-empty house steeped in anger and fear. It's hard to know my sister was panic selling her designer handbags on eBay. A small part of me, the old Clara, the people pleaser, wanted to fix it. I could just write one check. Just one. Make the pain stop. But then I would look at Lily. Lily was transforming. Without the weekly obligation of visiting her grandparents, she was blossoming. She wasn't asking if she was broken anymore. She wore her hearing aids every single day. She was loud. She was joyful. One evening, David and I were in the kitchen. "Your dad called the school," David said. My head snapped up. "What?" "He called the administration office where I work. He tried to leave a message for the principal, said he wanted to report unethical behavior by a teacher." My blood ran cold. "He tried to get you fired?" "He tried, David said, a grim smile on his face. But the principal knows me, and he knows your dad is unstable right now. They ignored it. That was the final straw. I realized then that they weren't just hurting, they were malicious. They were willing to burn my life to the ground because I had stopped fueling theirs. I sent one last email to all of them. Subject: final notice to Richard, Eleanor, and Sophie. It read, "Any further attempts to contact me, my husband, or my daughter will be met with a restraining order. Any attempts to contact our employers will be met with a defamation lawsuit. I have the resources to fight this in court for the next 20 years. Do not test me. Clara." They stopped. The emails, the calls, the texts. It all stopped. It was over. 6 months passed. The fallout was messy, but from a distance, it resembled justice. My parents couldn't keep the house in the gated community. Without my subsidies, the property taxes and HOA fees were impossible for them. They put it on the market. It sat for a while but eventually sold. They downsized to a 2-bedroom condo in a less prestigious part of town. It was a perfectly nice place, far nicer than what most people have, but to them, it was a prison. My mother complained to anyone who would listen that she'd been forced from her home. My father, at 65, had to get a job as a part-time consultant for a small firm. He had to actually work, not just play golf and pretend to be a tycoon. Sophie's life underwent the most dramatic change. She and her husband had to sell the Mercedes. They pulled their kids from the private academy and enrolled them in the local public school. And you know what? The kids were thriving. Timmy actually made more friends who weren't as snobbish. Sophie hated it. She posted vague, passive-aggressive quotes on Facebook about betrayal and fake family, but she had no other choice. As for me, I suddenly had an extra $25,000 a month that I wasn't setting on fire. I sat down with David one night, looking at our finances. "We don't need this money," I said. "We have more than enough. The stock is performing well. I don't want to just hoard it." "What do you want to do with it?" David asked. I thought about the audiologist's office. I thought about the other children I had seen there. Kids whose parents were fighting with insurance companies. Kids wearing outdated, ill-fitting hearing aids because they couldn't afford new ones. "I want to help," I said, "but not them. I want to help the people who truly need it." I started the Lily Foundation. I took the money I had once spent on my father's country club and my sister's vanity and funneled it into a grant fund for children with hearing loss. We purchased top-of-the-line hearing aids for families who couldn't afford them. We paid for speech therapy sessions. We sponsored a summer camp for deaf and hard-of-hearing children. The first summer the camp opened, I went to visit. I stood at the edge of a grassy field. There were 50 kids running around. Some were communicating with sign language, some were talking. All of them had devices on their ears, pink, blue, even camouflage. Lily was right in the middle of it all, laughing. She was chasing a butterfly with a little boy who had a cochlear implant. She wasn't a broken cyborg, she was just a kid. She was perfectly normal. I felt a hand on my shoulder. It was David. "Look at her," he said softly. "I am," I smiled. "You did this," he said. "You traded a toxic fake family for a real community." He was right. The guilt was gone. My parents were alive and healthy. They had a roof over their heads. I hadn't left them to starve. I had simply left them to live within their own means. And by cutting away the dead weight, I had allowed my own garden to flourish. Lily was thriving. Her speech was flawless. She was reading 2 grade levels ahead. She radiated confidence. One day, she came home from school. "Mom," she yelled, "Sophie sent me a card." I froze. I was in the kitchen. "What?" Lily held up a birthday card. It must have come in the mail, and I'd missed it. She sent me a card? Lily asked. Can I open it? I hesitated. My first instinct was to snatch it and throw it in the fire. But Lily was 7 now. She was smart. Okay, I said, but let me see it first. I opened the envelope. Inside was a generic happy birthday card with a handwritten note. Lily, happy birthday. Grandma and Grandpa miss you. Tell your mom to call us. We love you. It wasn't a birthday card. It was bait. A Trojan horse to get to me through my child. I looked at Lily. What does it say? She asked. It says happy birthday, I said. Did they send a present? She asked. No, I said. Just the card. Lily shrugged. She took the card, glanced at it for a second, and then tossed it onto the counter. That's boring, she said. Can I go play Minecraft? I laughed. The sound bubbled up from deep in my chest, a sound of pure, unadulterated relief. Yes, I said, go play Minecraft. She didn't care. They no longer held any power over her heart. She was free. Last night was a Tuesday. Tuesdays used to be the night I would stress about my obligatory phone call to my mother. I would pace the floor, rehearsing what to say, trying to preemptively navigate the conversational minefield. But last night, there was no pacing. We were all in the living room. It was raining outside, and the house felt warm and safe. David was on the sofa grading papers. I was reading a book. Lily was on the rug, surrounded by markers and a large pad of paper. She was humming a little, tuneless song to herself. A year ago, she couldn't have heard herself hum. Now she did it all the time because she liked the feeling of the vibration in her throat. Mommy, she said, look. She held up her drawing. It was a picture of 3 stick figures standing under a vibrant rainbow. One figure had long hair and glasses, me. One was tall, David. And the small one in the middle had 2 sparkly purple circles on the sides of her head, Lily. That's beautiful, I said. Who is that? It's us, she said. It's our family. I looked at the drawing. There were no extra figures, no grandparents standing off to the side, criticizing the shape of the rainbow, no aunt laughing at the stick figures, just us. This is my family, Lily said firmly, the people who love me. She went back to her coloring. I looked over at David, and he smiled at me over the top of his glasses. I realized something profound in that moment. We're told that family is blood. We're told we have to stick together no matter what. We're told that cutting off a parent or a sibling is the ultimate sin. But they are wrong. Family isn't about whose DNA you share. It isn't about shared history. Family is about safety. Family is about respect. Family is the people who, when you show them your vulnerability, don't call it a joke. I lost a father, a mother, and a sister, but I saved my daughter. And in doing so, I saved myself. I looked at my bank account this morning. The numbers are impressively high, but the most valuable thing I own isn't the money. It's the peace. It's the quiet where the insults used to be. It's the sound of my daughter humming, knowing she is safe, knowing she is loved, knowing she is not and never was broken. If you are reading this and you are clinging to people who hurt you simply because you share a bloodline, please hear me. You are allowed to walk away. You are allowed to close your wallet. You are allowed to protect your own peace. If someone mocks your child's pain, they do not deserve a seat at your table. It is terrifying to cut that cord. It's scary to choose to stand alone. But I promise you, the peace you will find on the other side is worth every single penny. If you've ever had to choose your own well-being over your family's approval, I want to hear your story in the comments. And if you're happy that Lily is thriving, please leave a red heart below. Thank you for listening.